vessel, vessel, 船舰。ɪvɛntʃʊəlɪ, ɪvɛntʃʊəlɪ, 最后终于。ɪnˋkrɛdəblɪ, ɪnˋkrɛdəblɪ, 难以置信地。detain, detain, 拘留扣留。dɑkjəmɛnhteʃən, dɑkjəmɛnhteʃən, 证明文件。rɪlíss, release, 释放解放。worse for wear, worse for wear, 筋疲力尽的。Man survives 11 days in ocean floating alone in a freezer. When a Brazilian man set out for a 3-day fishing trip in early August, he expected to get back with a freezer full of fish. Instead, he spent 11 days floating in a freezer in the Atlantic Ocean. Romado Macedo Rodriguez was forced to use the freezer as a vessel when his boat sank off the coast of northern Brazil. Despite being a fisherman, Rodriguez said that he cannot swim. The freezer kept him from drowning, but for days and days he floated alone in the Atlantic reportedly with no food or water, hoping for rescue. At one point, sharks were circling him. There are questions surrounding how exactly he managed to survive without water for so long. After a week, though, he fully expected to die in the freezer, but eventually and incredibly, another group of fishermen ran into the freezer off the coast of Suriname, a small country to the north of Brazil. Rodriguez, much worse for wear after his experience, was taken to a hospital in Suriname. Once there, however, he was reportedly detained by authorities because he lacked documentation. He was eventually released and allowed to return to Brazil. Personify, personify, 赋予人性、拟人化、具体化。Continuity, continuity, 连续性、持续性。Stability, stability, 稳定、稳定性。Perilous, perilous, 危险的、冒险的。Reign, reign, 统治、支配、在位期间。Tragedy, tragedy, 悲剧性事件、惨案、灾难。Pandemic, pandemic, 流行病、流传中的疫情。Recession, recession, 后退、经济的衰退、衰退期。Ubiquitous, ubiquitous, 到处存在的、普遍存在的。Mourner, mourner, 悲伤者、哀悼者、送葬者。Snap, snap, 用快照拍摄。Constant, constant, 不变的、不停的。Presence, presence, 出席、在场、存在。Stoic, stoic, 坚忍的。Tedium, tedium, 厌烦、无聊、单调。Mundane, mundane, 世俗的、世界的。Protocol, protocol, 协议、草案、外交礼节。Glamour, glamour, 魅力、魔力、迷人的力量。Radiate, radiate, 光热的散发，感情的流露显出。Figure, figure, 人物、名人。Overwhelm, overwhelm, 使不知所措。Steadfast, steadfast, 不变的、坚定的、不动摇的。Anthem, anthem, 对母校等的颂歌、国歌。Console, console, 安慰、抚慰、慰问。Traumatize, traumatize, 使受损伤，使受精神创伤。Ally, ally, 同盟国、同盟者。Grief, grief, 悲痛、悲伤。A queen who personified continuity and stability, lives at a perilous moment for the world. During her 70-year reign, wars came and went, as did crises and tragedies and political scandals, pandemics and recessions. From the days of black and white television to the Technicolor and the Internet ages, to a time of ubiquitous mobile devices with which mourners snapped selfies outside Buckingham Palace after she died, the Queen was a constant presence. Almost everything about the world changed unrecognizably since the day in 1952 that she learned in Kenya that her father George VI was dead and she was queen. But Elizabeth, stoic and formal, was always there and always the same. Her high-level political skills were shaped amid the tedium of endless overseas tours, mundane small talk at the official visit back home, and in the crushing protocol of state dinners. And she was not just respected because she was famous. She surely must be the most photographed woman in human history, or because she just lasted longer than anyone else. In her younger years, representing Britain abroad, Elizabeth brought glamour. Later on, she radiated experience and wisdom as a major historical figure. This is why even the most powerful man in the world, U.S. presidents, seemed a little overwhelmed when they met her. Many Americans remember the Queen for her steadfast and swift reaction to the September 11th, 2001 attacks when the U.S. national anthem was played at changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, and she consoled Britain's traumatized ally with the words, "Grief is the price we pay for love." Specialist, 专科医生。Diagnose, 诊断。Genetic, 基因的、遗传学的。Condition, 疾病、症状。Decline, 下降、减少。Symptom, 症状、症候。Engross, 是全神贯注。Disorder, 紊乱、失调、不适、小病。Set off, 出发、使爆发。In depth, 完全、彻底、深入的。Itinerary, 路程、路线、旅行计划。Restriction, 限制。Pandemic, 流行病。Revise, 修订、校订。Canadian family taking world tour before children lose their vision. Their daughter Mia was just 3 years old when Canadian couple Edith LeMay and Sebastian Pelletier first noticed that she was having vision problems. A few years after they first took her to see a specialist, Mia, the eldest of their 4 children, was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, a rare genetic condition that causes a loss or decline in vision over time. By this point, LeMay and Pelletier, who've been married for 12 years, had noticed that 2 of their sons, Colin, now 7, and Laurent, now 5, were experiencing the same symptoms. Their fears were confirmed when in 2019, the boys were diagnosed with the same genetic disorder. Their other son, Leo, now 9, was given the all clear. When Mia's specialist suggested that they engross her with visual memories, LeMay realized that there was one truly incredible way that they could do just that for her and the rest of the children. She and her husband soon began making plans to spend a year traveling around the globe with their kids. The family of 6 were originally due to set off in July 2020 and had planned an in-depth itinerary that involved traveling through Russia by land and spending time in China. However, they were forced to delay their trip by a number of years due to the travel restrictions brought about by the global pandemic and revised their itinerary countless times. When they eventually left Montreal in March 2022, they had few plans in place. Aside from witnessing beautiful sights, while their vision is still relatively strong, the couple hope that the trip will help the children develop strong coping skills. Traveling is something you can learn from. It's nice and fun, but it also can be really hard. You can be uncomfortable. You can be tired. There's frustration. So there's a lot that you can learn from travel itself.